Do you ever feel like the quietest person in the room, but also the one who sees absolutely everything?
You notice the subtle shift in body language when a topic gets tense.
You hear the idea that was dismissed too quickly, the one that actually holds the solution. People around you are making noise, but you are making connections. Yet, in a world that can't stop talking, your silence is often mistaken for absence. What if that silence isn't a weakness, but the very source of your greatest power? What if your quiet nature is a sign that you're actually more influential than you or anyone else realizes? In this video, we will explore the quiet signs that prove you're more powerful than people think, and we'll unpack the psychology behind why. In a world that constantly rewards the loudest voice and the quickest answer, it's easy to feel like your thoughtful, measured approach is a disadvantage. You've been told to speak up more or put yourself out there, as if your natural state is something that needs fixing. But true power doesn't always roar. It often observes, understands, and then acts with incredible precision. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about understanding the power you already possess. In this video, we're not just going to list some generic traits. We're going to explore the 4 foundational pillars of quiet power, understanding the science and social dynamics that make them so effective. Then, and this is the important part, I'm going to give you a simple framework with 3 steps you can use to start wielding this power in your very next meeting. By the end of this video, you will see your quiet nature not as a bug, but as your most strategic feature. So let's dive into the first pillar of your hidden strength, the power of observation. The core concept is simple. You consistently listen more than you speak. In any group setting, while others are jostling to get their next word in, you're naturally inclined to sit back and take it all in. Now, the common misconception is that you're shy, disengaged, or worse, that you simply have nothing to add to the conversation. People see a closed mouth and assume there's an empty mind, but they couldn't be more wrong. The truth is, your silence is an active tool for gathering data. You're not just waiting for your turn to talk, you're building a complex map of the situation with multiple layers. You're analyzing not just what is being said, but how it's being said and who is reacting. You notice the unspoken alliances, the hidden anxieties, and the strategic opportunities that fly right over everyone else's head. How many times have you been in a meeting, staying silent while you process, only to have someone ask if you're okay or if you have anything to add? This moment is often perceived as a prompt for you to catch up, when in reality, you are likely several steps ahead. Imagine a marketing team brainstorming a new campaign. Everyone is shouting out flashy, disconnected ideas, filling the whiteboard with noise. You remain quiet, listening to the client's original problem statement that everyone seems to have forgotten. You notice the data points from the initial research that have been ignored. After 15 minutes of chaos, when the energy lulls, you make a single statement. I've noticed we're focusing on taglines, but the original data showed the biggest issue is customer trust. Suddenly, the entire room goes silent, and the focus shifts completely. That's not being shy, that is strategic listening. So you see, your silence isn't empty, it's full of observation. But being a great observer is only half the battle, because all that data is useless if you get flustered in the moment of delivery. That brings us to the second and arguably most important pillar, composure. This leads us directly to our next sign of quiet power, the power of composure. The concept here is that you don't react impulsively in situations with high stakes. When chaos erupts, when unexpected bad news drops, your first instinct isn't to panic, it's to pause. The misconception is that this makes you seem unemotional, apathetic, or detached from the problem. People who operate in a state of constant reaction might look at your stillness and think you don't care. They mistake your lack of outward panic for a lack of engagement. The truth is, you possess strong emotional regulation, a cornerstone of high emotional intelligence. You feel the same stress and urgency as everyone else, but you have an internal circuit breaker that stops the emotion from hijacking your logic. You instinctively create a space between the stimulus and your response. This pause allows you to process the situation objectively, instead of getting swept away by the collective anxiety. This composure doesn't just benefit you, it makes you a gravitational center of stability for everyone around you. When a critical project suddenly has its budget slashed in half, the team leader starts shouting and the project manager begins catastrophizing. Everyone is spiraling, thinking the project is dead. But you, after a moment of quiet thought, simply ask, okay, with the resources we do have, what is the single most valuable outcome we can still achieve? Your calm question cuts through the panic like a knife. It doesn't dismiss the problem, but it instantly reframes the group's energy from fear to problem solving. This ability to be the calm in the storm doesn't just earn respect, it commands it. Your composure shows you're not controlled by your circumstances. You're in control of your response to them. People naturally trust and follow the person who isn't rattled. This is the power that doesn't need to raise its voice to be heard. If this is resonating with you and you value deep insights like this, take a second to hit that subscribe button. We're a community of deep thinkers here, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. All right, pillar number 3 is the power of deliberate action. This is about the quality and timing of your contributions. The core concept is that you think deeply before you speak or act. Unlike those who think out loud, you prefer to formulate your thoughts internally, refining them until they're ready. The misconception is obvious and frustratingly common. People assume you are slow, hesitant, or lacking in confidence. Because your process is internal, others don't see the work being done, so they assume no work is happening at all. They mistake your thoughtful pause for a mental blank. The truth is, you value quality over quantity and impact over immediacy. You understand that a dozen underdeveloped ideas are worth less than one fully developed insight. Your contributions, when they arrive, are therefore more likely to be well-structured, insightful, and relevant. You're not just adding to the noise, you're providing a signal. Think of it like an archer. One person might frantically fire 10 arrows in 10 seconds, hitting all around the target. You, however, take your time. You study the wind, you study your breath, you aim carefully, and you release one arrow that hits the bullseye. In a problem-solving meeting, one colleague might offer 10 suggestions in rapid succession. Let's rebuild the app. Let's hire a consultant. Let's pivot to a new market. These ideas are reactive and underdeveloped. You, on the other hand, have been quiet, comparing this problem with a similar issue from last year. This is similar to the Q3 issue last year. The root cause was X, and we solved it by implementing Y. I suggest we start by analyzing if the same root cause is present here. Your one contribution has more weight than the previous 10 combined. This is because it's not just an idea, it's a diagnosis with a precedent. Your words have weight because they are preceded by thought. Don't just be quiet. Be deliberately quiet. The fourth pillar is perhaps the most internal, but it's the one that supports all the others, the power of self-containment. This means your sense of self-worth and conviction are not dependent on constant external praise or validation. You have a strong internal compass that guides your actions. The misconception is that this makes you aloof, arrogant, or not a team player. Because you don't constantly seek approval or verbalize your need for the group, some might perceive you as someone who doesn't care about the team's opinion. They might see your independence as a rejection of their input. The truth is that you possess a strong internal locus of control. This is a psychological concept, meaning you believe you have control over your own life and success, rather than being at the mercy of external forces. This self-reliance makes you incredibly resilient. You're not easily swayed by groupthink or pressured by the need for social approval. If you do this, you're not antisocial, you're selectively social and deeply authentic. This allows you to pursue ideas and projects that you believe in, even when you lack initial support. Consider an author who spends 5 years writing a novel that their friends and family don't quite understand. They aren't fueled by daily applause. They're fueled by the conviction that the story needs to be told. Their validation comes from the integrity of the work itself, not from the immediate reaction of others. This self-containment is a quiet superpower because it allows you to play the long game. It frees you from the exhausting pursuit of approval and allows you to focus your energy on what truly matters, doing meaningful work. Your confidence is built from within, making it unshakable from the outside. Okay, theory is great, but how do you actually use this in the real world? Let's get practical with a simple framework that has 3 steps you can use to make your voice heard without changing who you are. First is the observation statement. This leverages your power of observation and begins with phrases like, "I've noticed that," or "It seems like the underlying issue is." This frames your contribution not as a confrontational opinion, but as a shared observation, which is much easier for a group to accept. Step 2 is the calm question. This uses your composure to redirect a chaotic conversation. Use questions like, "What's the most important thing for us to focus on right now?" Or, "What if we looked at this from a different angle?" This doesn't provide an answer, but it creates the space for a better one to emerge, and it positions you as the focused leader in the room. Finally, step 3 is the deliberate suggestion. This is where you use your power of deliberate action. You connect your observation to a solution. Based on my observation, I suggest we try a specific action with low risk. Based on the fact that customers seem confused by our pricing, I suggest we test a simpler model on a small segment of users. It's specific, logical, and actionable. So let's put this all together. What does this really mean? It means your entire way of being is a strategic advantage. Being powerful isn't about being the loudest person in the room. That's just a competition for attention. True power is about observation, composure, deliberate action, and self-containment. Loudness makes ripples on the surface, but quiet power changes the currents underneath. Your quiet nature is not a bug, it's a feature. It is your superpower in a world that has forgotten how to listen. True influence is not about the volume of your voice, but the weight of your words. So the next time you feel like the quietest person in the room, I want you to take a deep breath and remember that you might just be the most powerful one there. I am so curious to know which of these signs of quiet power resonated most deeply with you. Please leave a comment below and share your experience. I read every one. And if you want to learn how to apply these skills when dealing with loud, dominant personalities, you should definitely check out the video on the screen right now.
Thank you for investing your time here today.
Stay thoughtful.